Welcome to Grew with Portia, the podcast that uncovers the hidden treasures within grief. I'm your host, Portia the producer, and I'm inviting you to join me on a transformative journey where we will exchange laughter, of course the best medicine of them all, reflect on cherished memories. Remember that time that the little boy grabbed my hand instead of his mother's at the amusement park? Yikes. And of course discover gratitude while navigating one of life's hardest challenges, loss. So get ready to grow with me, Portia the producer. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Grew with Portia. I'm your host, Portia Booker, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep it with the latest and greatest of all with Grew with Portia. So, as those of you know, I talk a lot about grief, and one of the things that I think that we forget about in our society is that grief is not just limited to physical transitions. There's the grief of when we're forced to relocate. There's the grief of when we have to start over, even though sometimes starting over looks like a great opportunity, but there's that piece of us that's so used to where we were. And now it's like, what do I do from here? So today, everybody, I'm joined by an individual who was a survivor of Hurricane Katrina. And believe it or not, Hurricane Katrina happened 20 years ago, right? It's hard to believe that we've come so far, but yet we're still here in this space with people rebuilding. So I'm honored to have Mr. Ron Ladner on the show. So Ron, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Doing good. Thank you. Happy to be here.
Ron, I'm excited. When I first saw about your story, I'm like, wow, 20 years ago for Hurricane Katrina. And I'm sure there's people that are still recovering and rebuilding. And I'm curious, Ron, before we dive into the conversation, what are you grateful for today?
My health, my faith in God, my wife, our relationship, and to have the blessing to have the resources to help people who need help. And we kind of after the storm, it's one of the reasons why we stayed behind. It's like God has given us these resources, financially and leadership, and we need to stay. The easy thing would have been for us to leave, but we decided that we've been given the blessings to be a provider to those in needs, and there's a lot of people who are in need. So I'm just thankful that God has given me that ability to really help people.
Ron, I'm glad you brought up having the resources available, right? Because I think when natural disasters or tragic moments happen, that's when everybody goes into panic of where is the resources? Where is the help? And I'm curious, Ron, when you think back to 20 years ago, when Hurricane Katrina came through, you and your wife lost everything, right? And I'm curious, what did it take for you to work with your grief to start fresh all over again and decide, we're going to stay here and help other people despite what we've already lost?
You know, I, I'm Catholic, and my mother, was a saint, and she just taught us very early on that these things don't matter. And told my wife after we lost everything, we had our two dogs at the time, and I said, home is where you and I and the two dogs are, wherever that may be. We've got four heartbeats. No matter where we are, that's home. These structures can be torn down and rebuilt. So let's just not worry about it. Let's enjoy people's company and people's personality and people's soul, and not get too caught up with the structures, the material things in this world. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah. And Ron, I know you brought up about faith, right? And I know when we have some of these tragic situations happen, we wrestle with our faith. So I'm curious, what did it take for you to lean more into your faith and not turn away?
Well, that's really the only place I could go, and I don't know why people would question their faith. You always have the folks, how can God let something like this happen?
Mm-hmm.
And you hear this all the time. It's like, and this I may get struck by lightning here, but you hear people saying, God has a plan for me. And so
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't believe that. I believe that He gives you all the resources, and you're supposed to make your own plan. And I believe He's there whenever you need Him, and as many times as you call on Him, He'll be there for you. But I don't think God has a plan for me. I think God has given me the free will to make my own plan, and we all should think about making that plan ourselves.
Yeah, I mean that's a very interesting perspective, Ron. Because I mean, I think we've all heard that, right? I think of what the verse Jeremiah 29:11, right? That's the first thing that comes to my mind is, God knows what he has for you. He knows the plans that he has, right? But I think to your point, God gave us a brain to think. God
Yeah.
gave us community,
Yeah.
right? And just like to your point, home is where the heartbeats are. Church is a moving organism,
Right.
right? Church isn't just confined behind this pretty building with all these, stained glass windows. So I'm glad you brought that point up, Ron. And I'm curious, let's talk about Shaggy's, right?
Okay.
You've created this waterfront restaurant where now you have 5 locations currently. And I'm curious, Ron, what was the inspiration behind this cheeseburger shop that you made? Have you always made cheeseburgers growing
No.
up? Where did this come from? How did you decide on food to be that healing space for people to come and start to really open up about what has happened and turn their situation around?
Yeah, my career was in the software business, and we
Wow.
sold our company. And I'm in Atlanta now, but we didn't make enough to retire, but we made enough that I was ready to get out of Atlanta and move back to our hometown. We had a second home there, and we moved in probably like 10 months before Katrina hit, prettied the place up, put a pool in, and then we lost it all. And never in my wildest dream did I ever think I'd start a restaurant. It's not something I would ever even consider, right? So one of the things that we were trying to do everything we could to help the community, and we just came up with this idea. It's like there's no place for everyone to come together, right? Just like
Mm.
heartbeats, right? And so I just, you know, let's start a restaurant in the harbor. And the mission for the restaurant was to build something very simple. All right. And let's build it for the people. The word profit was never in the equation. All right. Let's build a place where people could come and feel comfort. If they can feel appreciated and loved, give them hope, and just make them feel better about themselves. And that was our initial mission. And the cool thing about this whole story is that today it's still the same mission. And I think it's a great lesson in life. You hear business folks, and when I was young and wanted to this big career and make money, you always hear that, do what you love and the money will follow. And I just got tired of hearing that. And it's like, this is a true example that if you do the right thing, that you can actually focus on doing what's right for others. And that translates into the money side of it, which is the profits. And today we're still doing the same thing. We take care of our employees. Uh, and people can say, "Oh, well, I take care of my employees and I put them first." I can tell you a statistic is that the average tenure for a restaurant worker is 75 days. Average tenure for our employees is 3 years. So we're creating this home environment for them where they feel safe and appreciated and loved. And everybody is happier, from the owners, which is only two of us, down to our employees. And then all that translates to bringing happiness to our guests. And so it's just like this. And it's very simple. We just put others first, get past ourselves and put others first. Let's take care of these folks. And that's how we started day one on the original restaurant. Let's take care of these people. And we're still doing the same thing, still the same mission.
Ron, I love how you brought up just now about treating your employees well, right? Because I think a lot of companies say that, it's more of a lip service thing instead of actually showing the return, right? You're at 5 locations, 450 employees, and clearly they love what you've brought to them. You've given them more than just a place to come to work. They're eager, they're hungry, no pun intended, because I'm sure the food is the bomb.com, but you've really given that revitalization to what it means to be of service in the world.
And people get so confused with that. And I'm going to tell you something that's kind of interesting is that uh, I know this will be, I'm gonna tell the story that's probably gonna be controversial, but I got the name Shaggy's from a restaurant that was in downtown Pass Christian. That's where we were. That's where Robin Roberts is from. And in the 40s, Shaggy's had a restaurant and bar there. Okay. And that was back in the day. That's my mother was going to high school then. That was back when if the blacks and white came into the same building, they had to have a separate entrance. So Shaggy, he broke the law and he knew that the cops would be watching. So the white people came in one door and the black people came in another door. And there was supposed to be a partition. He had a temporary partition and he let it go. And it was a place where different cultures and races came together to kind of enjoy themselves. And that's that's a symbol of the name and what we what we stand for.
And I love that you brought that up too, Ron, because what a beautiful tribute to this original Shaggy, right? When in the world today, there's still a lot of division with all the
Yeah.
stuff going on, right? And you're still keeping your same mission of bringing community together, right? We've all got stuff going on every day in our home life and work. And why not just come together for a meal to talk, to laugh, enjoy some good food? So, Ron, I'm curious, tell us, how did you settle on cheeseburgers and the menu, right? Because this your restaurants are obviously on the waterfront. And I'm curious too about that. What made you go back to having your restaurant on being on a waterfront, considering water was the devastation that caused you to change up everything that you originally had?
Yeah, they say as a horse knocks you off, get right back on it. That's kind of what we did. But the cheeseburger is uh, we are a seafood restaurant and we have great seafood. All of our locations on the water, great seafood. But our number one top seller in any time frame since we opened the doors back in 2007 has always been the cheeseburger. And I released my book yesterday, and it's Shaggy's Cheeseburgers is the name of the book, and this is this whole story. And I started writing the book. The name of the book was A Shaggy Story. And then when I got to the end, I said, that's just so mundane, right? It just kind of struck me. I said, cheeseburgers are number one seller. It's the name of my fishing boat. It's in the Caribbean right now. And I changed the name from Shaggy's Story to Shaggy's Cheeseburger because cheeseburger to me is a metaphor, right? A cheeseburger is something that brings you comfort and joy and happiness in a messy world, right? And I said, that's exactly what we're doing culturally. We, us at Shaggy's, that's what we're doing also with our people in our community. So the cheeseburger is a metaphor for the way our culture was created. And so I
Yo,
named the book Shaggy's Cheeseburgers.
Ron, that's a cool analogy. I mean, because you're right. Cheeseburgers, they're comforting. A lot of times they're not good for you health wise because
No,
they've got, I mean, when you go to different restaurants, right, you've got pickles. Me and my significant other, we just went out of town for a road trip and we went through the Finger Lakes in New York. And I remember sitting at one restaurant, they had all these unique named cheeseburgers, and I'm looking through what's in them. There was one that was like PB&J inspired. And I'm like, I love PB&J, but like you're really taking it to the extreme,
yeah,
right? Like, so there's so many good things, right, that taste amazing, but we know that after a while we're gonna have to start, doing some Zumba or whatever. But you're right, they get messy. We're sitting there, the grease is falling on the plate, and
you feel
sometimes
good, right? You feel good.
you do.
Yeah, you feel good, and yeah. It's let's sit down and just be happy. And you know, culturally, a lot of restaurants and management and training and most restaurants there's a list of things that when a customer comes in, hand a menu, walk them over here, take their drink order, all these steps, right? And so I kind of looked at this and said, after a while, this is just too much for a person to process. And if you got to be going through the steps in your mind. So we got rid of all the steps and we said, here's your mission. The person who comes in, when you come into our restaurant, what is it going to take to make you leave happier, just happier than when
Mm-hmm.
they came in? And if you can do that, every person's different. So you figure it out and you engage with them and do what you can to make them happy, just like we do what we can to make you happy as a person. We're just going to kind of pass it down, right? And it's worked out pretty well for us.
And see, that's the thing, Ron. You put people first, right? That sole mission is within each of your employees, right? They're wanting to be of service. They think they put empathy as the forefront of their day, right? How can I make this person's day better, right? It may not be the sole intention, but it's so deeply ingrained because you've set the foundation, right? And I'm curious, Ron, on a leadership note, how can more leaders put their profit mindset to the side and really invest in their employees to bring that return on investment over time, but also really change the culture within their workforce?
Well, it's interesting that, I came from a software world where, software companies tend to have like the strongest culture because they're trying to attract and retain the best talent. To do that, you got to take care of them, right? And that's kind of the world I grew up in. So we kind of just we transformed this restaurant, which has no culture and no loyalty typically, right? And so I just kind of brought that mindset over. It's like, why are these people? Why are we taking care? Why would you not take care of someone, right? Yeah, and my business partner, Rimmer Covington Jr. and I, we laugh about this, but it doesn't always work out. You know, the majority of the time when you try to help people, they're not going to be grateful, and that's fine. But I talk about it in the book. Is that uh, I saw the sign one time, and it said, or something on the lines of, "Don't be upset by rejection and people who aren't grateful for all the great things that you do." Jesus healed 10 lepers. They left, only one came back to thank him. So he got a 10% return. Do you think you deserve better than that? And we always go back to that, the 10 lepers to help us, not get frustrated when you try to help people. But that's just the way we are. I mean, it works.
When you're looking at it from the lens of one life has a better outcome because I was present with them, right? Somebody has a shift in perspective or in their day because I gave a piece of myself.
And I think it's partly faith. I think you have to
Mm-hmm.
that it's the people who work for us and the people we around us is so much more important than my boat or my condo in Atlanta. These things don't matter. And if you do have faith, if you truly believe in Scripture and the things that we're taught on Sunday, is that love your neighbor as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to do. I mean, that's he didn't say make a profit. He didn't say, go make money and accumulate material things. Like love your neighbor, and that's hard. If you really take a step back and digest what that really means, and this is what we're trying to do.
Yeah, you don't have to tell me twice. It does get trying when you're working with people of different cultural backgrounds, different walks of life, different experiences in life. So you're juggling so much, and you have to, sometimes it's a challenge to
Yeah.
remind yourself of love thy neighbor as thyself, but you do the best that you can, right? Sometimes you have to take that little look, I'm going to take me a quick little walk just to cool off for a second, or just jump it, in your case, jump in the pool for a second, probably, or the beach, and then just come right back in, right? And make everybody laugh because maybe you have a little sea urchin that wanted to hitch a ride type
Yeah,
of
there you
thing.
go. Yeah. I think for us, and it goes back to the leper story, I think or I can just speak for myself. The frustration is people not appreciating and still wanting to take advantage. We help so
Mm-hmm.
many people say, you give them $10, they want another dollar, right? And it's kind of overcoming that mental and emotional disappointment. And
Mm-hmm.
we all expect if we love our neighbor, they're going to love us back. That's not true. That's just simply not true. If we love our neighbor, they're going to appreciate us. That's not true, and it's hard to just accept that. But once you accept it, and only 10% of the people Jesus helped appreciated him, is like, shoot, man, if I can get 5%, I'm in pretty good company. And that's getting past that mental, rejection, and just, hey, I'm gonna help them, and they reject me, that's fine. And here's the other thing. Now, I talk about this in the book. There are a lot of things that my mother tried to, you know, ideas and behaviors impose on me when I was young. And some of those things didn't bear fruit until I became 30. I was 30, 35 years old. So it takes time. You're just planting seeds. And we kind of look at it that we're planting a seed. They may not accept it now, but one day they will. I may not be on this earth anymore, but that's kind of how we look at it.
Yeah, you never know how things will boomerang. It may not boomerang right, within 10
Yeah.
minutes, but the thing of it is finding that gratitude in the shift that does occur at some point.
Yeah.
Well, Ron, for our audience who's tuning in, if they want to connect with you, maybe come grab a bite at one of Shaggy's or those amazing cheeseburgers, how can they connect with you or get one of those cheeseburgers at one of those locations?
Well, they can. I have a website. It's Ron Ladner, RonLadner.com, and they can go to that site. And the book is listed there. The book Shaggy's Cheeseburgers is on Amazon. If they go to my email address on the website, so if they want to give me a call or send me an email, I'll respond to everybody.
Excellent. So, everybody, you can go to ronlatner.com. You can also use our good friend Google to probably just find him, or Shaggy's, the restaurant, or Shaggy's Cheeseburgers, the book that was just recently released. Well, Ron, we're going to be wrapping up here soon. And, I want to extend so much gratitude to you for coming on and sharing with our listeners today how you really took the baton to reinvent your life after Hurricane Katrina, because so many people have gone through different natural disasters and have been stuck as a result of having to start over. So, Ron, for our audience who's tuning in, if there's one piece of wisdom that you can leave with them today, that no matter what circumstance they're currently in, that they can turn things around, what piece of wisdom can you leave with them today?
It's always going to get better, and you have to have that attitude. It's going to get better. And that, I tell my art managers all the time is that it's okay to hurt someone's feelings, all right, as long as it's something they can control. If they're not a good looking person, there's nothing they can do about that. But if they're lazy and you hurt their feelings, it's going to help them change, right? And every time we get our feelings hurt or we get into a situation, I think you have to look at it as this is a call, somehow a call for me to become better, right? To me become better. And I don't think you ever become better unless you go through these trials and challenges and tribulations. You have to go through that to get better. So whenever you're down or whenever you have a mishap in life, welcome it. Say thank you, because this is my invitation to get better, and I'm just going to come out of this a better person.
100%, just for that reminder for all of you who's tuning in that things do get better. It may take time, but if you're constantly staying in that space of gratitude, and gratitude isn't always like, oh, I'm thankful for this, this, and this. Sometimes it's just a state of being. So just keeping that at the forefront of your mind. Well, everybody, that was Mr. Ron Ladner that you heard from on Grew with Portia. And that concludes another episode. And until next time, everybody, peace and hair grease. Talk to you soon.